All right, I'm not going to lie to y'all. This post-game recap is either going to be fantastic or terrible. I honestly have no idea because my brain is just completely scrambled after that game because that was one of the best, if not the best bad games that I've ever watched. So what I mean by that is both of these teams shot terribly. There was a lot of very ugly and annoying basketball that was played in this game, but it was still wildly intense and wildly fun to watch. So if I haven't said it yet, so subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and drop a like on this video. I was watching this game with Nicholas, who I shouted out in the last post-game recap. Go subscribe to his channel if you have not already. He's up to 6K now over there, thanks to my shout out as well as Crispy Flakes. So if you haven't subscribed to him already, his content is fantastic, and I want him to keep doing this. So go subscribe to him. That link's going to be in the description. But I was watching this game with him, who basically the Bucks are his second favorite team. But the way he talks about it, he could be confused thinking that they're his favorite team. So he was intense throughout the whole call watching this game. And of course, both of us are going to Bucks versus Nets game 4 in person. So I was just rooting for me not going to a game that's potentially a sweep. Like, I don't want to be in, I don't want to go to a sweep of a series that was expected to be a great series. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, game 3 was another blowout, so game 4 is probably just going to be when the Bucks completely just roll over and die. So for that reason, heavily rooting for the Bucks, and honestly, probably the most I ever rooted for a playoff team since the Bulls were last in the playoffs, which has been a little bit, in case you did not know. So I was very much invested in this game going in Milwaukee's favor. I want them to win this series to begin with, but like especially this game was a huge deal. Obviously, you can't come back from 3-0, or at least you theoretically can, but it has yet to happen. So yeah, that entire game was just incredibly intense to watch. Well, not the entire game, because the first quarter the Bucks went up 30-11, and Giannis and Middleton each scored 15 in that first quarter. So it was just those two going back and forth. Giannis getting to the paint for dunks and things like that, different layups, going right at Blake Griffin, and Chris Middleton, threes, couple of mid-range pull-ups, things like that. And the Nets, thanks to Milwaukee's defense, but also just missing a couple of shots that they normally make, they scored 11 points in the first quarter. I'd like to say that again. I'd like to reiterate that again. 11 points from the Brooklyn Nets. That's insanity. Like, for them to score 11, Kevin Durant was like 2 for 7. His usual contested mid-range jump shots were not going in. Kyrie Irving came in the third quarter and immediately started a spark, or the second quarter immediately started a spark for them with 2 mid-range pull-ups, and that got the momentum to sway more in their favor after being down 19 in the first quarter. They eventually fought back and got it pretty much to be an even game up until like the 2-minute mark of the second quarter, where the Bucks went on another small run and gave themselves a little bit of a lead going into halftime. Third quarter was a disaster for the Bucks. I mean, the second quarter, they only scored 2 points in like the first 4 or 5 minutes. The third quarter, I swear they scored 3 points in like 8 minutes. Like, it was pathetically bad for them. And the Nets were not great either. Now, they were better than they were in the first quarter, but still not good. Really, there's a couple of things that were weird about this game that I have to point out. So first of all, Bruce Brown, while he did miss the layup that would have tied the game up for the Nets, he was amazing for them in this game. I don't know what he finished with, but he got multiple floaters in the paint over Brook Lopez, with him being used as the screener as a big man. When people say that Bruce Brown is a 6'4 center, they're not kidding. And honestly, 6'4 might be a little bit of an overestimate, because he seems more like 6'2". He was 8 for 17, so you wouldn't expect Bruce Brown to shoot the ball 17 times, but multiple floaters, 16 and 11 in this game. Great defense in multiple instances. Just fantastic game from him. Giannis finishes with 33 and 14. However, 1 for 8 from 3. And you know how people were complaining that he took like 2 or 3 threes with like 18 seconds left on the clock in game 2. I think all but maybe one of these 3-point attempts that he took in this game, that wasn't the case. Like, all of them on the fast break or at the very start of a possession, walking into a 3-point pull-up shot that did not go in. And it was straight up infuriating. And anytime Giannis decided to attack, really, half of the time it would be great, and then the other half he would lose the ball. So he finished this game with 5 turnovers. I'm pretty sure all of those happened like him getting like stripped, not a pass, not like a bad pass. There might have been 1 or 2 in there maybe, but Bruce Brown a couple of times. Really just every time Giannis went into the paint, a help defender came and swiped at the ball, and he wasn't ready for it. And he should have been ready for it. He wasn't. And that resulted in a lot of turnovers. And because he kept getting the ball stripped, he started taking those jumpers because he's like, they can't take it away from me if I just shoot a 3. But then you're just playing into what their defense wants you to do to begin with. So that was very frustrating on Giannis's part. Chris Middleton finally had a good game after being terrible. I don't know why I just harmonized that. In the first 2 games of this series, like terrible, like beyond garbage. This game, 12 for 25. He had 15 in the first quarter, obviously. Finishes with 35 points and 15 rebounds, which I didn't realize he had that many rebounds. And then he hit 2 back-to-back mid-range jumpers in the fourth quarter late. Then he took 2 bad shots in a row because he was hot after making 2 shots. I mean, the way this game was going, hitting 2 shots in a row felt like a miracle, so that's that. But then Kevin Durant also hit 2 mid-range shots following Middleton's mid-range shots. Later on, he hit a 3-pointer, which gave the the Nets a 3-point lead. Middleton got his layup goaltended. Probably should have been an and 1. And then after a few more back and forth misses, Drew Holiday, with like 15 seconds left on the clock, the Bucks did not take the timeout that they had, and he did a spin, drove right, and finished the layup. And after that, the Nets, with an opportunity to win the game with like 10, 15, 11 seconds on the clock, something like that, they fuck up the inbound. And there's a scramble. Bruce Brown suddenly, at the ball, top of the key, sees a wide open lane. But Brook Lopez, who I have been giving shit for this entire series, and really just for a while now, he recovers beautifully and contests the shot enough without fouling. And then the ball finds its way into Giannis' hand, gets fouled, but thank God the Nets had a foul to give. Then Chris Middleton gets fouled, 2 free throws. And then once again, the inbound play by the Nets, not particularly good, because they give the ball to Kevin Durant like 5 feet behind the 3-point line, and he misses that, obviously. So that was that game. Fantastic defense, but also just a lot of missing shots, a lot of dumb shit. Like, fucking Giannis taking those threes was just painful to watch. Just outright painful to watch. Like, every time he took it, I was very angry. Nicholas with me in the call was like shaking his head. I literally screamed at one point. I was literally like, why are you taking these shots? Like, it was just very frustrating. Giannis, there were a couple of tweets that were joking, like about what James Harden said about Giannis, where he said, I wish I could just be tall and run and dunk all the time. Don't let that shit determine how you actually play. Like, I tweeted about the 3-point shots, and someone was like, oh, Giannis gets criticized if he takes the threes or he doesn't take the threes. Who gives a fuck what he's criticized for? Do what wins you the basketball game, and you're going to get a lot less heat than if you lose. What wins you the game is what you got to do. Who gives a fuck what anybody else thinks? So I highly doubt it, but if the reason why he was taking those shots in part was because he was worried about that criticism, don't. Like, I'd much rather you win this game and not take a 3 than lose it because you took 10 threes and made even 4 of them. Like, win, do what it takes to win. Fuck everything else. I don't give a shit what kind of criticism you're going to say. Oh, he doesn't shoot threes. If he wins, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck if he doesn't shoot threes? That was a little aggressive. My apologies. Anyways, this game was great and also terrible. I'm very much looking forward to going to Game 4, which is happening on Sunday. After that game, I'm going to go back to my Airbnb, and I'm probably going to record a post-game recap about my first playoff experience with the guys that I actually go to it with, just because I think that'd be fun. It'd be like a short podcast almost. But that will be interesting, and I'm very glad that I'm not going to that game with the Bucks down 3-0, because that would have been kind of depressing, honestly. So yeah, that's it for this recap. I don't think there's anything that I'm forgetting. This was just a great game, and I was very happy to have watched it with a group of people who were also entertained by it, and one who almost wanted to die because the Bucks were looking like they might lose. So yeah, great game, very good game. Now it's time to go watch Clippers versus Jazz. Bye.